So this is to show how to change the coolant in the inverter system on the Prius. This is the 2006 Prius. And this is the reservoir for the inverter coolant system. And that's the cap. You want to leave the cap on right now. And to change the coolant, you have to go underneath the car, and you're going to need a bucket to catch the coolant, and you're going to want to loosen this drain plug. Don't open this one. This is the lubricating oil for the transaxle, and there's a fill hole for that that's higher up. It's the same up there somewhere. Right there. That's for filling the transaxle. You don't want to open those right now. That's a different job. But to do the coolant, it's this drain plug, and what you're going to need is a 24mm socket or a wrench. You can also use a 15/16 socket if you have one of those. That fits almost as well. It's a little bit tighter than a 24mm. And get your catch bucket ready, and make sure your ratchet is set on loosen. And then what you want to do is just loosen the drain plug, and it shouldn't be too tight. You're going to torque it when you're tightening it back up. You're going to torque it to 29 foot-pounds, so it's not on super tight for such a big fastener. Make sure your bucket's ready, and there's an aluminum washer on this plug. You want to make sure you get that. And it's draining kind of slowly right now because the cap is still on the reservoir up in the engine bay. Make sure you've got the aluminum washer, and let that drain. And then you should start to see the level go down in the reservoir. If you loosen this lid, you can hear, see it drains really quickly. So at this point, all you have to do is clean up the plug, inspect the washer. You can put a new washer on each time. I replaced this washer last time, and I think the dealer price was pretty exorbitant. It was like $2.50 for a little aluminum washer like this. So I'm just going to reuse the washer this time. Gets a little groove in it from having been tightened up, but I think if you use a torque wrench and keep it clean and don't over tighten it, you can probably use the same washer over and over again until it gets really distorted. Of course, you can replace it each time if you want to. It's no big deal. And there might be a cheaper source than the dealer. So I'm going to let this drain and then clean up this plug and put the plug back in, and then we'll start refilling the system. So after you've let it drain for a while, it'll slow down to a trickle. And one thing you can do to make it go a little bit faster, if you want to get the last little bit of the old inverter coolant out, is go up to the reservoir and just blow into it a little bit. And when you blow into it, it'll force some more of the coolant out. And then, you know, let that drip out. You may as well, you know, you only do this every 50,000 miles. You may as well wait till the last few little drops have, you know, slowed down to a trickle. And then, you know, when it's really slowed down, what you want to do is, with your drain plug that you've cleaned up, with the gasket back in place, is put it back in the hole, make sure it's lined up, and just tighten it up using your fingers. You don't want to use a tool, you don't want to strip the threads at this point. Just do it finger tight and make sure it's snug and on correctly. And then you can get the drain, the catch pan out of the way for now, and you want to take a torque wrench that is set up for 29 foot-pounds, again with the 24 millimeter socket, and make sure the torque wrench is set to tighten, obviously, and then put it on the drain plug and just gently tighten it up until it clicks. You can hear it right there. Like that. And that's all you got to do. You don't need to over tighten it. 29 foot-pounds is enough. This should be good. I wipe up this area just to make sure it's nice and clean and dry, because when you start the car up, you're going to want to take a look down here and make sure that there's no drip of coolant or anything. So if you start off with a nice, clean, dry area, it makes it a little bit easier to determine if you've got a leak. And then you're going to want to, what I would do is measure out, I'm going to measure out how much of this coolant has come out, so that I know about roughly how much has to go back in. You can see it's, after 50,000 miles, it's still pretty transparent. It's still pink. This is the Toyota SLLC coolant. So next is refilling the system. So I'm going to measure out about how much inverter coolant came out. This is coolant from having just changed the internal combustion engine coolant. So I've got 1.5 from the engine, and now I'm going to add the coolant that I just drained out of the inverter. Should be about 1/2 gallon, might be a little bit more. I'm collecting it anyway to take it to the waste recycling. So that's maybe about, maybe just under 1/2 gallon. I've still got a little bit more remaining. Maybe about 1/2 liter, 1/2 quart or so. So I think I took out about 1/2 gallon total. And that's good to know, because that's about how much you're going to need to put back in. So next is refilling. Basically the trick there is get a clean funnel, put it into the inverter reservoir, fill it up. So this is just brand new Toyota SLLC coolant. You fill it up slowly, this container had about a half a gallon of SLLC in it. So all the coolant in this container should wind up going into this system. And here's some air bubbling up. Don't overfill the reservoir, because there is a right there is a tube that will dump the coolant out of the system. I don't think it has a secondary overflow tank. It just dumps it onto the ground. So when you're filling the system up, don't overfill this reservoir. Go slow. You can hear all the... So I'm just now getting to full, and there's lots of bubbling going on. This is almost empty, so I'm almost done. And to assist in bleeding it, there is a right here in front of the inverter electronics, there is a bleed nipple. I think you just take this rubber cap off and you loosen this fitting, and it will let air escape. So I'm going to do that next. So ready to bleed. First, what you want to do is just take a simple closed end, could be 12 point or 6 point, doesn't really matter, wrench. You want a 10 millimeter, and then you want to take a little bit of tubing. This is the same tubing that you would use to do the internal combustion coolant change. Put that on the end of the bleeder. Put the tubing here, and then just gently open up this bleed nipple, which may be a little bit, could be a little bit stuck. You don't want to put a whole lot of force on it. Boy, that's really stuck, huh? Okay, so that's loose. And then with that loose, you'll see the coolant is going to rise, and when you start the inverter, the inverter pump will drive coolant and air bubbles out, and you can bleed the air out of the system this way. So I'm going to do that next. So I'm not going to start the internal combustion engine. I'm just going to push the power button twice, which should start the inverter pump. You'll hear a lot of gurgling, a lot of bubbling. And the level goes down in the reservoir, so you add more. Bring it back up to full. You can hear some bubbles. And as the air comes out, eventually the coolant should flow. So that's good. And once you've got all the air out of the system, then you can tighten up this bleeder and adjust the level of the coolant in the reservoir to the right level. So I got all the air out of the system, and I'm a little short on coolant of the 50-50 premixed coolant, so I'm going to add a little bit of distilled water. I bought 2 gallons of the SLLC to do the engine and the inverter. And I think I either drained out a little bit more from the engine than what I was figuring, or I spilled more than I thought I would. So I'm a little bit short of coolant, so I'm going to put the little bit of the distilled water, maybe just a few. Just a few, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a liter. And I want to make sure I got all the air out of the system. I'm still hearing a kind of a funny sound from the inverter pump, so I'm going to just open up the bleeder again. Oh yeah, there's definitely air. So I opened up the bleeder, and I'm just, now that I've got the level closer to full, there definitely was some air. I want to make sure you get all that air out. And I'm going to try to keep the level close to full. So I'm adding a little bit more distilled water to bring it just to full. And the sound of the pump is sounding a little bit better. I'm just squeezing the hoses. I don't think that's really needed. And there's a little bit more air still coming out. So I think at this point I'm getting the last little bits of air bubbles out. Sometimes just squeezing the hose. This is the hose that goes into the base of the reservoir of the inverter coolant, and if you kind of squeeze that, you can kind of provoke some of the bubbles that are trapped in the system to get knocked loose. And then hopefully. So after you, with the inverter pump running, after you bleed the coolant, you can close the this bleeder valve just a little bit tight, not too tight. You don't want to bend the little bracket or twist off this bleeder nipple. It doesn't need to be very tight. And then when you've got it fully bled, the coolant level will be at full, should be at full, and you will, if you look in the tank, you can see swirls and sort of a rippling surface. And that is a good visual sign that the system is full of coolant and most of the bubbles are out, and the inverter pump is pumping the inverter coolant around through the loop. And you should be good to go at that point. And just make sure that the level of the inverter coolant is at full. So when you've achieved that, then just put this cap back on, and it will lock into place in the right position. And you're going to want to close the bleeder nipple and tighten it up. I've already done that with a closed-end 10mm wrench. Disconnect the bleeder line, and if there's coolant still on the line, you can drain it back into the reservoir or recycle it. And then at this point, you've got the inverter coolant loop bled. Put the little rubber cap back on the bleeder. Yeah, and at this point, with it bled, you are ready to put the cover back on over the radiator. So to do that, the way I do it is slide it over the hood release handle first, set it into position, and then in each of these little holes there's a fastener that will go to hold it in place, and I've got those up here in the trough under the windshield, so I'm going to put those back in place. So the way to put these back in is to pull the head back slightly, such that the part of the clip that spreads is not spread, and insert them through the hole and then push them into place, and they'll snap. It's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. And once this cover is back in place, I'll try one of these other ones first. That particular one is being a bit tricky. These are always a bit tricky, especially if they get old and they get bent out of shape a little bit. It can be difficult to get them to fit again. Through the hole. be doable. Don't know why these are being so difficult. Well, this could be the hardest part of the whole job. Yeah, that one's tricky. Let me try the next one. Okay, that one went in there. So, it seems to be I'm pretty sure these are all identical, but it seems to be a little bit tricky to get a particular one. There we go. So, they're all in. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. And I think that's all there is to it. It could be this is actually supposed to fit under there. Yeah, so kind of snap that in underneath, I believe, is how that's supposed to go. And make sure that they're all seated. And that should be all there is to changing the inverter coolant.